The following is a presentation of the Chicago Bears Network and ChicagoBears.com. Download the Chicago Bears official mobile app for up-to-the-minute Bears content every day. And now, welcome to Bears All Access, your all-access pass into Chicago Bears football. Bears All Access is brought to you by IGS Energy and sponsored by Athletico Physical Therapy and CDW.
I hope it's a great day for you, everybody. I know it's red hot in Chicago, and boy, unseasonably warm right now. So, nice heat wave. This will be a pre-training camp preview of what is to come here for the Bears and the rest of the National Football League. This is Bears All Access with you on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. I'm Jeff Joniak. We're brought to you by IGS Energy. My broadcast partner, Tom Thayer, tucked away in Maui. I bet you didn't think it'd be in the 90s here in Chicago. What do you got over there? Is it 75 and a light breeze?
Yeah, 78 with a light breeze.
There you go.
That's the type of weather you like, but I know in Chicagoland area the heat wave has begun.
Yes, it has. Our producer tonight, Adam Dazinski, he's in our Score studios. Our producers as well, Jordan Trudup and Dan Barilli. And coming up in our next segment, Jim Miller from SiriusXM NFL Radio's Moving the Chains. And he is a former Chicago Bears quarterback. And then at the bottom of the hour, Tom will visit with Doug Kramer, the Hinsdale Central Products, just like you. Grew up a big bed, huge Bears fan, and then was able to play his entire high school and collegiate career here in the state of Illinois, and then drafted by the Bears. You guys have a lot in common, even more so than Cole Kmet, because this is a fellow offensive lineman.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to talk to Doug because, when I grew up in the 60s, the only thing offered to you in the NFL was the Chicago Bears. So in good times and in bad times, you always had to stick with your hometown team, and you wanted to. When you go to that next generation or a couple generations after me, you have the exposure of the entirety of the NFL, and it's kind of interesting where your path is going to take you. And I like to hear that Doug Kramer's been a Bears fan his whole life and his whole career. He's a locally born guy, and I just think about my family and how excited we were as a whole, and I got to imagine it's the same for him and his family, just the opportunity to go out there and compete for your hometown team after playing at the University of Illinois. What a fun career it would have, like the Dick Buckuses and guys like that.
Well, earlier this week, Luke Getsy on how competitive this offensive line is going to be as they wrapped up rookie minicamp over the weekend at Hallis Hall.
It should be extremely competitive. That's at every position. That's what we're in here doing every single day, is giving guys an opportunity to compete. There's no jobs that are locked up right now. And so when you get the pads on, that's when real ball starts. So everything will be evaluated.
And he says it'll be a process like everything.
Right? The way that they get off the football, the way they execute, their mentality, their finish, all that stuff is going to get evaluated. So I'm excited to see that. We still got a ways to go. We got another phase that we have to take in order to be able to be prepared for that opportunity. So got another month or so to give these guys some more work and some more information.
Oh, so you got a bunch of guys competing at those spots. It's going to be fun to watch.
The competitiveness is going to be at an all-time high. When you bring in a new coaching staff and new position coaches everywhere, you bring in a lot of young talent, a lot of free agents with some opportunities to have some success in the NFL. When you kind of think now that we've had a chance to talk to Ian Cunningham and hopefully eventually get a chance to talk to Ryan Poles, and we talk to Matt Eberflus, every time you get to listen to a coach behind the podium or a microphone, you kind of get a better understanding of what they're looking for, and then you have a little bit of football exposure, and you see what the expectations of effort on the field is, and I think that is really going to be a telltale sign of the competitiveness of every single position throughout OTAs and training camp.
And the schedule release coming up there at 7 o'clock officially. I know here on the Score, Danny Parkins seemingly has the entire roster of games, but can't confirm or deny because it's NFL rules. So here we go. We do know the home opener with a visit from the San Francisco 49ers at noon on September 11th, Tom. So that'll be the kickoff. Visit from a team that came into Soldier Field last October. May have seen the best play with his feet in the Justin Fields era in that game, that wonderful play that he made something out of nothing. And that was a hint of what he can bring to the table. But the 49ers in town for the opener.
Yeah, well, when you look at the teams that they're going to face this year and you look at the San Francisco 49ers, there's sidebar stories to every team. You look at the Bears going through the coaching transition, and then you look at San Francisco where there's uncertainty at the quarterback position. Then there's been, talk about Deebo Samuel and where he wants to play, and does he want to be traded? Would he be willing to hold out? Does he want to make his mark out there as a wide receiver as opposed to a running back? So, it's just no A against B in this, early schedule. There's a lot of things that are going to cause a lot. I don't know if it's going to cause controversy or it's going to create some new connections.
Now, the Bears have lost 7 of their last 8 season openers, so it'd be nice to get off on the right foot. When we come back, we'll be joined by Jim Miller, Bears quarterback and member of the team on Sirius XM NFL Radio. He is our weekly guest. And also Doug Kramer, the University of Illinois product, joining us at the bottom of the hour. Sit back and enjoy on this steamy Thursday in Chicago in May on Chicago Sports Radio, 670 The Score. Welcome back, everybody, to Bears All Access. It's brought to you by IGS Energy. Choose clean energy for your home at IGS.com because every good choice adds up to a better world. With Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak, pleased to be joined by Jim Miller, our weekly guest from Sirius XM NFL Radio's Moving the Chains. I sometimes just limit your broad resume, Big Jim, because I say Bears quarterback. But heck, you didn't just quarterback the Chicago Bears. You got a league-wide view of things as a former Pittsburgh Steeler, a former New England Patriot, Jacksonville Jaguar. Who else am I missing? NFL Europe.
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Frankfurt Galaxian.
So, you might have a welcoming party. I'm sure they're going to send you to the first regular season game in Germany this year.
I'd like to go to that.
You'll be an envoy.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, and I think next year they are playing in Frankfurt. So they're going to go back and forth between Munich and Frankfurt. So, yeah, looking forward to that. I mean, that'll be pretty cool. Schedule release tonight.
Schedule release, 7 o'clock. We know the Bears going to open against the 49ers. Green Bay announced their home opener is Week 2. Again, Jim, another primetime game against the Packers. And this every year since 2005. And that's deserving. It's the oldest rivalry in football. But I think now 14 of them have come, Jim, in Green Bay. So they always love to warm up the welcome mat for the Bears at Lambeau in primetime.
Yeah, and, it'll be interesting to see how many primetime games the Bears do land for Matt Eberflus. And, players, the bottom line is when you get the schedule release, one, you're looking at your Week 1 opponent. That's what you're thinking about. You're thinking, are there consecutive, say you got 3 weeks in a row of away games. Certainly the players factor in the bye weekend, but they're all tough. They're all tough. But for me, I always focused on Week 1, the away schedule, how many miles we'll be traveling, and then, of course, where the bye week is. But, you got to play them one at a time. It is what it is. They're not changing it. So once that schedule is released, it's staying the same. So get your mind right, get it locked and loaded for what you'll be dealing with.
As a player, Tom, obviously they didn't do all this. They didn't make a big deal out of it back then. It just was released. You know where you go. This is what it is, and you go do it. But did you, other than looking where the hot weather games are, because you're a sweater and you're worried about it, you don't love playing in the heat. I heard a story about you last night, as a matter of fact. It was from Brian McCaskey, who said that you demanded in the huddle to get the water first when he was an athletic trainer, and he was a little nervous to give it to Jay Hilgenberg. Is this a true story?
Unfortunately, yes. Some of the miseries that made you kind of those circumstances that I would always almost demand a towel in the water bottle first so I could cool myself down and then, then give it to everybody else. But, Brian, he was a great trainer for the Bears throughout my whole time there. But, when you're looking back on the schedule, when I became a part of the Bears, again, I was talking last week, I came a part of the NFC Championship and then the Super Bowl success after that, and we had the best record in the NFL for 3 or 4 years after that. So it wasn't always worried about who our opponents were when the schedule release came out. I did always think about what hot weather games we were going to play. Cold weather didn't bother me. But it kind of seemed of some of the loud stadiums that are you going into the Kingdome in Seattle? When do you play the Minnesota Vikings? When we used to play Tampa twice a year and we'd play Detroit, we would have a bigger Bears fan crowd there than we would the actual opponent. So with everything that we faced in the schedule release, Jim, it was that, we kind of looked at it and what games are good for you and what games are going to be the biggest challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, Jim, the thing I care about most when I look at the schedule is what quarterbacks you're facing.
Yep.
And what pass rushers you have to stop to avoid having them wreck your game plan.
Yeah.
So, when I look at this schedule this year, however it's going to ultimately land, you're looking at Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, as the big ones, and then Josh Allen from Buffalo. The rest have some growing to do yet, or some developing with the team they've moved to on this schedule.
Well, yeah, Washington with Carson Wentz. How is he going to perform? He's already this is his third team. Let's be honest. Bears have Miami Dolphins this year. Don't know what week it'll be or the time, but Tua Tagovailoa. There's a lot on the line there. It'll be interesting week one. Do the Bears face Jimmy Garoppolo or is Trey Lance the guaranteed starter there for San Francisco? Because that's a big discrepancy. Trey Lance only got in 2 games last year. Essentially, he got hurt, and think about it. They elected to roll with a banged-up Jimmy Garoppolo who's dealing with the shoulder, and he had the hand issue late in the year, and they still felt Jimmy gave him a better chance to win. So I think it'll be interesting who's lining up under center week one. Daniel Jones under the gun for the Giants. They'll face a young Zach Wilson. Atlanta, how will they be performing under Marcus Mariota? I think we know what New England's going to be under Mac Jones. I think they gave us a good indicator last year. But, yeah, the quarterbacks you're facing are going to be a big part of it and how they can manage the game. That's a lot of experience when you're facing somebody like Aaron Rodgers.
Fellas, we alluded to it last week, Tom, that the roster is going to be a continuing piece that is constantly changing with this new administration to see where the best pieces are and how they all fit together. So, again, today, a couple of veterans added in the receivers. Tajay Sharp, former Atlanta Falcon, had a really terrific rookie year in his time with the Falcons. And Dante Pettis, who came in the league with a lot of great credentials because of that speed, 4.32 speed, that hasn't quite translated into a lot of production just yet. But maybe here with the Bears that changes. A couple of undrafted rookie free agents the Bears had signed were let go. And then yesterday the waiving of tight end Jesper Horsted due to a failed physical. They've added Rice and Johnny, 6'7", 260-pound tight end from the Giants who runs well off waivers.
You know what I like about every single one of these guys on this football team, offense and defense, is they're all starting even. Because there's nobody with a year, a couple seasons of advantage within the system, so they know how to get in the right place a little bit quicker. And when you talk about all the free agent wide receivers, how much changeover there is at the tight end position, all the offensive linemen they brought in, both free agents and draft choices, it's going to be interesting because some guys, they're able to accomplish more mentally quicker, and so you can't have any mental errors. That's going to be a decision making factor in what is assumed that how you can help the team. So yeah, I'm gonna. It's going to be fun to watch the competitiveness, and I think it's going to be as competitive in OTAs. Not as it will be in training camp because it's going to be in full pads, but some of these guys are going to rise above the rest.
That's Tom Thayer. Jim Miller from SiriusXM NFL Radio's Moving the Chains. I'm Jeff Joniak. We're going to step away for a break. This is Bears All Access, brought to you by IGS Energy on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. This segment of Bears All Access is brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an appointment in clinic or virtually and start feeling better tomorrow. With Tom Thayer and Jim Miller from SiriusXM NFL Radio's Moving the Chains, I'm Jeff Joniak. Jim, our weekly guest. Jim, Bears also added a quarterback this week, Nathan Peterman. He's been with the Buffalo Bills. That's where he broke into the league. And with the Raiders last couple of years, Ryan Willis released. What's your thought?
Yeah, I think he provides more experience. And again, I think you're trying to surround a young quarterback in Justin Fields with some veteran guys who have played a little bit. Trevor Siemian has been around. I think when you look at Nate Peterman, he's been around too. And Nate Peterman was well coached under John Gruden out there. He played well in the preseason games. Everybody goes back to the Buffalo Bills. Remember, he got this first start against the Chargers and threw like 5 picks. And that's how people remember Peterman, but that's not the case 4 years later. This guy has been well coached. He's been in and out of game plans and preparing week in and week out. As I mentioned, out there for the Vegas Raiders. At one point, he had to get an elbow surgery, got his arm corrected, so he can play, and he's got some experience to him that can probably be beneficial to the young Justin Fields.
Tom, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just think about the quarterbacks when you're trying to teach a system to a quarterback. Does these quarterbacks, are their traits significantly different from each other, or do they have similar traits to each other? Because if you're teaching a moving pocket type pass to Justin Fields, does Trevor Siemian and Nathan Peterman, do they have the same athleticism to be able to carry it out and possibly turn it into the run or to throw on the move? Or do you focus a little bit a different portion of the offense that suits the traits of Trevor Siemian and Nathan Peterman that may be a little different than Justin Fields? When you're teaching an entire offensive line, they kind of all fit into each other like pieces to a puzzle. But it seems like when you have quarterbacks that have different trait values, do you have to teach differently, and does it put more pressure on the position coach to get those points across or develop the offense between the three of them?
Well, if you listen to Luke Getsy this week, the running game is going to be significant. That's for sure. He keeps emphasizing that, and that's the best way to help out your quarterback and get him eased into the system and open up the deep ball. But more of what he's looking for the key principles for this offense to develop.
Well, hopefully, when you watch us, it's 11-1, and it's we're firing off the football better than anybody else in this league, and we're finishing better than everybody else in this league. Those are the things that we're talking about every single day. We're taking care of the football, getting off the rock, and we're finishing better than anybody else in this league. And so that's our mentality. That's our purpose. We can do that. We got a chance.
Jim, how do you feel about that statement?
Yeah, I think if you can always protect the football, you got a chance in a game. I say it all the time. It's easier to lose games than it is to win it. And if you start to turn over the football, you don't have a chance. So you have to protect the football. It's going to be paramount. Justin cannot carry the team right now. It's he's in an early stage of his career. He's got all kinds of talents, but to expect him to carry the team, that's just not where he is at this stage of his career. So the running game is going to be the best avenue for him. I know everybody's been screaming for it. They made that transition last year, and it sounds like they're going to start with that mentality this year. So it'll be exciting. A lot of things need to come into focus from the offensive line. How do they come together? The running back situation, like the situation there with David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. I think Khalil really showed some things when he got the opportunity last year. So they have to have the mentality that it's going to be early and often for them to help out their young quarterback. And I think the play action will really suit Justin Field beautifully if they're able to do those things.
But when we are talking about the quarterback, I like to hear Luke Getsy talk about every time they're going to fire off the ball and how aggressive they're going to be at the line of scrimmage. At the running game is going to be an emphasis, and it's 11-1. I agree with all that. But my concern when we just backtracking about the quarterback position, when you put the script together for the first 25 plays of a game or however many they script, does it suit all quarterbacks? Is it the same threat if you had the number 2 or number 3 quarterback in there as if you put the system together for Justin? That was my only thinking process. The preach points that the coaches have brought up about how aggressive they're going to be, how the emphasis on the running game, and how quick and off the ball they want the offensive line to be. Look, man, I'm 100% on board with all that, and I am just speaking a little bit about the quarterbacks.
Coming up here in moments, we'll be joined by Doug Kramer, the Bears' new offensive lineman from the University of Illinois and Hinsdale Central. Defensively, last week, Jim, listening to Alan Williams, the new defensive coordinator, he was very good talking about the defense, and boy, that defense was flying around playing at obviously no pads, but everybody running around like the athletes they are, and there was a lot of energy and juice to that practice over the 3-day minicamp. Dominique Robinson name come up because, boy, he looks the part of a pass rusher. He really does. He's got the frame. He just doesn't have the experience.
Yeah, we got to see. We hadn't put pads on yet. Right now we're it's football in pajamas. We're, might as well be playing basketball. So we have to see what, we're not going to give him a whole bunch. And really, we're saying him, but all our guys. We're going to say, hey, line up here. If you get this stimulus, this is the response that you're going to give us. And we're going to teach it over and over and over again, and then see kind of what he does.
It sounds like Rod Marinelli very much. I could hear it echoing. You strip him down to bare wire, and you teach him the fundamentals all over again. And every couple weeks, or even, I think Rod told me every 48 hours, muscle memory loses a little bit, so he goes right back to the basics, and that's true for any player, Jim.
Yeah. You do want to be on, rope memory is what we call it. If I had to line up and really count out all my steps on, say, a 7-step drop, it'd be robotic. It just needs to be rope memory, where it's just that you've done it so many times you don't even need to think about it. And and Dominique Robinson, who you mentioned, he's an interesting guy. Ian Cunningham, the Bears assistant GM, they've been pretty steadfast about it. They believe he has a high ceiling. This guy is an early and young at his position, as you had mentioned, Jeff, in last week's show. Goes from quarterback in high school, really signs as a wide receiver, and now finds himself on the defensive side of the ball. So this is all new for him. He's still honing his skills. Can he be a guy that can set the edge? He certainly has the frame to get bigger and stronger. Most rookies do, and he'll be asked to do that because he's going to have to be stronger at stopping the run. But he's new to the position, but has a high ceiling.
And an enjoyable conversation with him last week up at Hallis Hall. Coming up next, joined by Doug Kramer, the Hinsdale product and U of I star at center. He's now a Bear. We'll talk to him next on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Chicago Bears single-game tickets go on sale tonight at 8:30 p.m. Get your tickets at chicagobears.com/tickets. The schedule release officially coming out at 7 o'clock. Bears will open the year at home against the San Francisco 49ers and then go up to Lambeau Field to take on the Packers in Green Bay. And the guy will be on that roster helping things in the right direction as the Bears look to build a new chapter. We welcome in Doug Kramer, the Hinsdale Central High School product and University of Illinois 5-year starter. A lot of games played there. He's on the program. Thanks for hanging on, Doug, and we appreciate it. You're with Tom Thayer, Jim Miller. I'm Jeff Joniak, and this is Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. So I know rookie minicamp afterwards, you had a chance to visit with the media, and you were talking about dreams coming true. And, going back to even when you were figuring out where you're going to play college football, it was a dream then to play for Illinois. You and Tom have so much in common because you're homegrown offensive linemen that played it, I'm assuming, your whole life, and went to high school, college, and now are beginning your NFL careers in the same spot. How cool is that from your perspective? And certainly I know you followed Tom's career as well.
Yeah, first of all, just how's it going, guys? It's awesome to be on the show. But yeah, obviously, growing up an Illinois fan, being able to play there, and then, growing up a huge Bears fan and getting this opportunity is awesome. And honestly, if I would have told myself that, growing up, I probably wouldn't have believed it. But, it's come true, and now, we just got to make the most out of the opportunity. But I'm super fired up to be a Chicago Bear.
Hey, Big Doug, congratulations. This is Tom Thayer. Welcome to Chicago, and hope you're here for decades to come. So Jeff mentioned that you played 5 years in college, and I think there's a lot of the conversation of the speed of the game is lost on quarterbacks. I think it goes for everybody that comes from college to the NFL. When you see the speed of which you guys were practicing at rookie minicamp, did it seem a step faster to you than what you experienced at University of Illinois?
Yeah, I think, the speed of the game definitely increases as you keep going up in the levels, and it's no different as going from high school to college. There's definitely, a little bit of speed difference, but I think really just the most important things are, you got to focus on every single detail, once you get to this level, and also just have urgency in getting to your footwork, getting to your landmarks and all of those sort of things. So, obviously, the speed's going to increase, but, you just got to match it. And obviously, you'll get used to it. You just got to keep going against it. So, a little bit of a learning curve, but, it'll be fine. At the end of the day, you're playing football.
Yeah, but you're in the unique position where you're playing center. Do you ever have to have any sidebar conversations with all the quarterbacks that you're working with just to see, okay, do I need to adjust the snap? Does it need to be delivered here? And any of those conversations take place, or is it just go about your business and you guys will adjust with reps?
No, I think you have to focus on all the little details, and one of those details is having those conversations with the quarterbacks. My job is to get them the football first and foremost. So if I can do it better, I want to know, if I can do it better. And those were conversations that, me and Ryan Willis had during rookie minicamp. So those are certainly things we talk about.
Doug, Jim Miller here. Congratulations on playing for the home team, Chicago Bears. It is quite an accomplishment for you to be able to play for the home team in Chicago. Well, one, I just want to know, through the first OTAs, the introduction of the playbook, how did that go for you? It's always new when you learn a new system and maybe new techniques that are involved. And, just how was it? And is it that much more expansive than what you've gone through at, say, Illinois?
It's a little bit more expansive. I had 3 different offensive coordinators at Illinois and, 3 different O-line coaches with that. So I, had a taste of what it was like, relearning playbooks and taking what you've known before then and carrying it over. It's expansive, it's detailed, and, you really just got to dive into it every day and continue to study it. And, then when you go out on the field, you know what you're doing and you're ready to roll. But really, at the end of the day, you just got to dive into it and study.
A lot of people that say, everybody calls it the Underwear Olympics because you're not in pads right now. But, you can do things in terms of techniques, whether it's hand placement, getting the positioning of the block or the angle that you're taking. And certainly it's not to the level of training camp and what it is in full pads, but trying to practice to be perfect in those type of situations, even though you don't have your pads on. I mean, how disciplined can you get to do all that?
Yeah, I think, without that contact, you have to think about everything else. In certain blocks, I'm thinking about my footwork. I'm thinking about where my hat goes, where my eyes are, where my hands are, everything. And just, trying to have that perfect rep. And at the end of the day with offensive line, chances are everything's not going to be perfect on every single play, but, that continued pursuit to try to, reach that perfection is huge at offensive line.
Bears draft pick Doug Kramer, our guest here on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. We're brought to you by IGS Energy with Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak and Jim Miller from SiriusXM NFL Radio's Moving the Chains. Offensive linemen, typically, they don't love talking about themselves. And here you're put in position as a kid coming out of college and going to be drafted to talk about yourself a lot, whether it be to the media and the build-up to it afterwards after rookie minicamp. Are you comfortable with that in this position? What is your take on that aspect of things?
Yeah, I definitely I would much rather talk about the team. I'd much rather talk about those goals and how we're growing together rather than just about myself. But it's part of it. So obviously I'm in this opportunity and I'm super happy and proud of the work that I put in to get here. So, I can do a little bit of both, but I'd definitely rather talk about, the group, the team and where that's going.
All right. Now, you've indicated significantly that you are a Monster Bears fan, from the jerseys you wore to the attention you paid to it. Give me some stories. First game at Soldier Field, first memory of what it was that really got your attention about the Bears and you became so fanatical about it, because I love those stories about the kids that grew up and the teams they're going to play for. Give me something good.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest memories I have for sure, growing up watching the Bears was, when we made the playoff run and in the Super Bowl and Devin Hester returned the kick. I remember, just being in my living room with all my best friends, some family watching the game, just absolutely losing my mind. But, those little moments like that are really why, I grew to love the game. And, growing up, I loved Brian Urlacher. So just watching him, every single play his range on the field, going sideline to sideline, all those little moments, just watching it made me, really fall in love with the game.
Hey, Doug, can you take us through your draft weekend experience? Were you watching the draft from the very first pick until when you get picked? Where you have certain family members with you, and when that call finally came, and it came from the Bears, how was that whole experience that you lived through?
Yeah, So I watched the first 2 days of the draft alone. Just because I think my parents wanted to leave me alone for that one. And that was really just me tracking, different offensive linemen that were getting picked. And then the third day, we knew there was, a chance that I would get picked that day. So I ended up just watching him with, my mom, dad, brother and sister. And yeah, I mean, it was a really long day, and that call obviously made, the wait worth it. And, I'm sure everyone, you guys have all seen the video of the call. Definitely best phone call of my life. And, my parents and brother and sister were losing their minds in the background as well.
Well, now that you've transitioned to the pros, you have those, I don't want to say other things in college that are, you've got class, you've got other responsibilities you got to take care of, and now it's all football. It's a job. You're going to work. It's time to go to work every single day. And have you already adjusted to the itinerary and the tempo and all the things that are involved about being a true pro? As you're just, you're another working stiff just like us, Doug. That's what it is. That's my point. You're going to work every day, right? You got to approach it as such.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to, you have to take everything you're doing seriously because, at the end of the day, it is a job. But it makes it a little bit more fun when, you love what you're doing. I love the game of football. I love watching it. I love talking about it, and I love learning about it. So it may be a job, but I definitely love going in there every single day, getting better, learning things about the playbook and just, getting out on the field with my teammates.
Doug, last question, and we'll let you go. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us and hope to have you on again. Were you anything other than a offensive lineman throughout your football playing days, all the way back to youth football?
Yeah, I've been an O lineman for the majority. I would say, at the beginning there were a couple, games or stints where I played a little bit of quarterback, running back, linebacker, and those sort of things. But other than that, I've been, an O lineman my entire life through and through.
Awesome. That's the way to do it, to get to the
Best
NFL.
athletes on the field.
Best athletes on the field. There you
exactly.
go. We're surrounded by him in the booth with Jay Hilgenberg and him, and the offensive linemen after their playing careers are the best guys to learn the game from, if you ask me. So I know you know the game, and that's one of the strengths of your game. So we look forward to seeing you, and good luck with everything throughout this off season and leading up to training camp. Appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you guys, and bear down.
Bear down. That's Doug Kramer, U of I product, Hinsdale product, and now a Chicago Bear. We'll continue on with Jim Miller and Tom Thayer and break down what exactly did happen at rookie minicamp that will pave the way for the conversion into the veteran mix with these guys as they go into OTAs. It's all ahead here on Bears All Access on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. This segment of Bears All Access is brought to you by CDW, people who get it. With Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak, along with Jim Miller from SiriusXM NFL Radio's Moving the Chains. I enjoyed our conversation with Doug Kramer. Now let's talk about rookie minicamp. I felt being up there that and this is what they want. This is what Matt Eberflus is hoping for, just the speed by which they were moving, the athleticism of the talent, and there were like 35 tryout guys, 6 of them signed to the roster. Really athletic mix, guys from small schools, big schools, played a lot, didn't play a lot, it didn't matter. they were there to try to get on this roster and get on this 90-man roster that's going to be constantly changing. But that was my first and foremost thought about it. I hadn't seen that kind of tempo, and maybe I just don't remember, but I did not remember seeing that kind of tempo, fellas, that I did see in those 3 days.
Well, you're remembering correctly, because when you look at it and you see the tempo in which these guys were practicing with, it changes just the mentality of what you have to do, what your job is, what position you're playing, how quickly you need to be there. Are you thinking of what you just heard in the huddle as the ball is being snapped? And now if you're half a foot too slow off the ball, you're left behind in that type of tempo. And it never slowed down throughout the weekend. I love the fact that this point of emphasis that they made since the day Matt Eberflus was hired, that it's carried onto the field. And I really believe there's no slowing down. And, like when Doug Kramer, you get a chance to go through rookie camp and everybody's kind of on the same pace because they're just beginning to learn the system. I remember my freshman year at Notre Dame. You go for a week of practice with only the new signed scholarship players, and then a couple days later they bring in all the veterans. And it's like someone turned the gauge on, and also went to a speed like you've never experienced before. So I am super encouraged by the effort that was demanded out of these guys.
And Jim, with veterans, they've been working at it here now in the off-season program, the voluntary part of it. OTAs will now mix that with the rookies. But even for them, do you think training camp will be a little bit of shock to the system for what they've been used to?
It amazed me. I still, to this day, like when we go out and we watch the Seattle Seahawks practice, their tempo is like none other than I've ever seen in the NFL. And the reason why they do it, and I see it's catching on around the league, is you're only out there for an allotted time, right? Hour and a half, and you're trying to maximize the reps that you're getting because you don't have the quote-unquote two-a-days. So you got to be productive and efficient when you're out there and try to maximize and get as many reps in as you can. Certainly it is important to practice, whether it's going drill to drill, to have the tempo, the pace. You catch players' attention level. There is no nodding off, so to speak, or daydreaming or anything like that. So you got to be in tune because there's so much energy and tempo that is going on out there. But I do think, the coaches said that they were going to set the standard, and after a while it just becomes normalcy for the players, where, I don't want to say you can turn it on and turn it off, but you literally know when you step on those white lines what is expected. And so it'll start to mimic each other, and it becomes that way every single time you come on the field. Again, rote memory, right? You're doing it over and over and over again, and what's expected. And that's the same thing about practicing as well. And practice as perfect as you can, absolutely.
When you got a coach who's ticked off about the way the practice is going, and it's not going well, effort's not there, maybe dog days of camp. Do you remember, fellas, the longest practice of your life?
I remember.
Give me something, both of you.
I'll touch in. We were going into our first week against Jacksonville in Pittsburgh, and it was kind of we just got out of training camp, right? You get that. That little time off, and then you come back and everybody's just kind of blah, and you're getting back into the practice schedule. And I remember Bill Cowher made us start over from stretch. We got all the way to blitz period, which is, for the listeners out there, it's like halfway through practice when we were doing blitz period. And it was such a I can't say the word, but it was such a bad practice. He's like, he called everybody up and said, you want to know what? Everybody go down to that tunnel, and you're running out to this field again, and we're going to start from stretch, because that is just not good enough for us to win in the National Football League. And we did, man. And I'll tell you what, the practice picked up from stretch on. Nobody wanted to do that over again. I mean, but yeah, everybody was in tune after that. He got everybody's mind right.
So we were in Berlin, Germany, getting ready to play a preseason game against the San Francisco 49ers. In Joe Montana, their offense, they were throwing the ball all over the field. But the thing that Dicker recognized, that in between periods when the horn blew, where we would kind of methodically make our way to the next drill, the 49ers, they would like sprint pace to where they had to be on the field, and Dicker took notice of that. And because of how successful they were in practice and how good of a team they were, all of a sudden that night in the team meeting, he says, I don't want anybody lollygagging in between drills. I want you to sprint to that next drill position, get ready, and make sure that the tempo continues on that same pace. So whether it's an example of another team, what they're doing right in front of you, and how it kind of transform what your head coach thinks, it was an eye-opening experience for all of us that we're going to start going from drill to drill as quickly as the 49ers were doing it.
Tom, did you just call your teammates lollygaggers, just like Bull Durham? Lollygag in the first, lollygag in the second. I mean,
well, we practice every practice, Jim. We were in full pads, so we were going live. There was no, tempo, but you kind of take that slow jog over to the next period. But after that, there was no more slow jog in between periods. It was get there and let's see if we can get maybe an extra rep or two in that period.
Well, we're going to be looking at positions throughout the course of the next few weeks, because that'll be the end of the off-season program here in about a month when they wrap up with the mandatory minicamp. So a good place to start is at the safety position, which I put a lot of value in. I know some others don't. They don't look at it the same way, but I've always felt strongly about it. And when you look at the depth chart now, and there's 5 of the 6 players, assuming Michael Joseph is still a safety and not just a corner, there's new bodies surrounding Eddie Jackson. We'll start with Tom, and then we'll go to Jim. How do you feel about this now? A couple of veterans, DeAndre Houston-Carson obviously comes back as well, but some new young blood.
Yeah, you know what I like, again, the speed in which they complemented the defensive backfield with, how quickly they went to their angle of pursuit. But what kind of intrigues me is, can you take a couple of these 6'2" young guys and turn them into big physical safeties? And that's when you look at the size of some of the guys that they're bringing aboard this year to get into the competition at camp. Yeah, I know you have to look at them as special team contributors, but I think the safety role of the Bears defense is equally as important as you want to talk about the 3 technique or the nickel, the slot corner. You got to have a ferocious element at that safety position, and the Bears have had it before in the past, but I think that's a new element that needs to be designed into this new defensive system.
And John, Tom, you're talking about John Alexander and A.J. Thomas. A.J. Thomas from Western Michigan by way of Detroit. He was a rookie minicamp signing. And same with John Alexander from Charlotte. You throw in Jim Elijah Hicks, the 5'11" safety out of Cal, picked in the 7th round. Of course, Jaquan Brisker, 6'1", 200 in the 2nd round. You got Dane Cruikshank, he's 6'1", 209. Michael Joseph is 6'1", 196, at least on the roster right now. And Eddie Jackson is 6 feet, 206. So you got some big boys back there at the safety position.
Yeah, just look again. Look where the coaches have come from. Right, look how Indianapolis is built. When they drafted Kari Willis out of Michigan State, he's right in that same mold. They want the over 200 big physical guy. They're going to have to come downhill and fill and help and run support and all those things, but still have the ability in coverage from that standpoint. I think both Brisker and all those guys kind of have the same body frame in what they're trying to do. They all can run. They're all physical, but they're in that 200 to 214 range, like Akari Willis of the Indianapolis Colts. That's what they want it to look like, in my opinion, for the Bears. All
right, couple of things to go over here. It's the family of Tom Waddle. Tom Waddle, the Bears' former wide receiver, but Gino Cappelletti, one of the best players in NFL history, an original member of the Boston Patriots in 1960, has his number retired, number 20. He's a Hall of Fame receiver and place kicker there with the Patriots and was a longtime broadcaster as well. He died this morning at the age of 87, so condolences to Tom, that's his father-in-law, and his wife, Kara. Great family and a great guy. We met him many times. Yep. I know, Jim, you've probably met him too, just along the broadcast circuit over the course of that man's career. But the AFL's all-time leading scorer.
Wow.
Yep. And also an MVP back in 1964. So shout out to him. And then Robin Wilkie, who has been an executive assistant for multiple general managers, Jerry Angelo and Phil Emery, and then John Fox, Matt Nagy, and Matt Eberflus, is retiring, I think, here in the next few days. But she has been with the Bears since 1998. a lovely woman, full of spunk, on it, does her job at a very, very high level, and a very big part of that front office for a long time. We've known Robin a long time, and now Jim, she was there when
Sure.
Well, she was there,
Yep.
since '98. So we all know her. What a great woman, and just fun, but really diligent about her job. So we got to wish her happy retirement, right, Big Tom?
Oh, my God, never shy of sharing an opinion with you, Robin was. And I'm so proud to have known her and worked alongside of her for all these years. And she played an important role inside that building. And I wish her nothing but a long, happy, successful retirement.
Yeah, that was the year I arrived in Chicago, and she was a treat, man. Obviously, always a pleasure to work with, and like I said, a lot of fun. So, we wish her all the best in retirement. We'll be thinking about it. She's impacted so many people and done such a good job, so hopefully retirement is everything she wants it to be.
Absolutely. She's definitely earned it, that's for sure. All right, so schedule release coming up here in a couple minutes. Single game tickets going on sale at 8:30, so it's getting closer to impact here. The Bears will open the season against San Francisco week 1 at Soldier Field, as Jim alluded to when he joined the program in the last half hour. Who the quarterback is for the 49ers, we don't know at this time whether it's going to be Trey Lance or if it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo still there in San Francisco. My guess it's going to lean towards Trey Lance getting a start here in his second season. And then at Green Bay, week 2 against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers without Devontae Adams. So an adjustment for him up there as well. You're already shaking your head. You're already getting your anger on towards the opponent.
No, you know what? I just want the loyalty of the Bears fans to show up September 11th at Soldier Field and make it difficult for whomever plays quarterback. Let's start this season on the right foot and advance every week accordingly.
Absolutely. And, Jim, the NFL season opens Buffalo at the Rams Thursday, September 8th. We'll be looking forward to that. Jim, we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it, guys. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Doug Kramer, a University of Illinois product and a Bears draft pick now on their offensive line, for joining the program tonight. Thanks as well to Jordan Tredup, Dan Barilli, and Adam Stasinski. Coming up next, Gabe Ramirez and Anthony Herron will join you. This has been Bears All Access on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for listening to this Chicago Bears Network presentation of Bears All Access. Podcasts are available on chicagobears.com and on iTunes, or download the official Bears mobile app. Bears All Access has been brought to you by IGS Energy and sponsored by Miller Lite.